Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central. It's day 2, Tuesday it is. We are here to ensure that you get the latest stories from around and across, you could say, the world and Nigeria. The three definitely are here, and you can be part of the program by simply joining us as we stream live on all socials, on X, on Facebook, and particularly on YouTube, where we'll be taking your comments as we move along across different news and also not forgetting to headlines. My name is Joe Hansen. Good morning, Judith.
Good morning, Joe. Very good morning to our viewers this morning and also to the entirety of Lagos, Nigeria and large. As always, Breakfast Central is where you want to get started on a Tuesday morning. We've got quite the analysis, our guest lineup, and not to forget all the what Nigerians are saying on here. Gbenga Borua is also here as well. This is the first time, apparently you are Papa, I don't want to say her name, but I just found about your daughter's name today. How come I didn't know her name? What happened to? Why didn't you name her?
One of those things.
It's one of those days. You know?
Yeah. Her middle name is Judith, by the way. I'm just joking.
Finally, I've been waiting.
I just added that now, so I'd go adjust that birth certificate.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I finally have a namesake.
Yeah. Wow, it's good to be here. Tuesday, second day of the week, raring to go. So many stories to unpack and so many big issues to dissect and analyze. This is Breakfast Central. This is the right place to start your day with information, analysis, and everything you need to start your day right here on News Central's Breakfast Central. As always, we start with our wake-up conversations. And today's wake-up conversation, I mean, it's sometimes you wonder how politicians come up with these things. But I'll let you judge, since NBC said we shouldn't be airing our opinions. So, but Serap is fighting a good fight for us. So
there's a court injunction has been passed.
Right.
That's
because sometimes we can blur the lines between analysis and personal opinion, right? Because I can analyze things as it is and then be preemptive and say this is what I think would happen in the next coming months. But
the analysis is coming from you, so
yeah, it's coming from
personal,
me, right? So that's my analysis of it.
But it's personal opinion,
yeah, that's
analysis.
What I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So then that ruling or that instruction sort of blurs the line of what our job is.
Let's test it with this story. Charles Soludo.
That's a nice one.
Charles Soludo, the governor of Anambra State, has announced plans to ban midweek burials in Anambra State, describing the increasing number of weekday funeral ceremonies as a major disruption to productivity and economic activities. Speaking at a public event, the governor lamented that burial ceremonies now dominate almost every day of the week, slowing business and social activities across the state. Soludo said his administration would introduce measures to curb the growing culture of elaborate funerals stretching across multiple weekdays, insisting the state must strike a balance between cultural traditions and economic development. The proposal has already sparked debate over the place of burial rites in Igbo culture and the need to protect working hours and commercial activities, the governor says. This is one of those weird, unexpected sorts of news. I found it very strange the first time I came about this. And one also wonders, why is the mortality rate in Anambra State so high that people are going for burials every other day? And for it to get the attention of the governor, what is really killing these people? Because it's not like burials are happy.
So much so that it's
happy celebration.
It's commercial activity.
Exactly. It's not naming ceremony. And then number two, if they're not, at New Central, you're not going to say you're going for a burial this week, then next week, and I mean, it's you owe your employees your time. That's your employers your time. That's why they employed you. So I guess it applies to all businesses. And if you're a tradesperson, a business person, and you decide to attend burials instead of opening your shop, well, you will face the consequences. I think it's a very private issue. So I wonder why the governor or the government wants to interfere in how people.
I don't know if we have a video of him where he had said that, but I mean, if
I
that
think
would
there
be nice.
should be a video.
Yeah, it would be nice to watch it.
I know Monday I will laugh. I respect the breath of God that is I know when they say we have on Monday, it's that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, burial. Friday, burial. Saturday, burial. The woman there was Friday. For these 3 days of bricklayer, a part of our construction sites, the contractors come to use the line. Friday, Saturday, so they prefer to use this and this is west. Every construction site.
So, Bega, let me ask. How many days is he asking for burial to take place?
Just weekends.
Mostly weekends.
Just weekend. He shouldn't hold.
And I don't think
Wednesday,
burials hold on Sunday.
Thursday,
so the only
Friday.
day you probably have is Saturday.
Thursday.
Saturday.
Exactly.
Okay, so no more burials on this. But why is that? That's the question. Why?
Because it
You-
says
That's
it's eating
That's
into
a very pertinent
productivity.
question. Why are people dying?
I mean, it's inevitable. People will die. People die
Exactly.
in every state in Nigeria.
But so much so that that it caught the attention of the governor for him to make such a statement and ask that and ban weekday burials or funeral services. Look, I don't know what's going on in Anambra State for him to have prompted that statement. But I feel like this is a governor grasping at straws to point at everything that seems to be the issue when it comes to
Does he want-
economic
Yeah.
productivity in the state. Because this is the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. This is a PhD holder. This is somebody who
professor.
studied economic, who has sat at the apex bank of a nation, right? A professor, thank you very much. And somehow, the only way that you can solve economic issues is midweek burial services or funeral services. And I mean, how many local governments do we have in that state? How many residents are in the state? How much is the population of Anambra State alone that you are banning funeral services? I just have to say that, come correct, sir. Good morning, sir.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I want to believe that maybe Governor Soludo has looked at the IGR. Maybe the internal generated revenue of the state is not looking pretty good. I mean, I just want to say maybe. I'm giving a reason why he would make that statement. And also, let's be fair.
Or if
to
there's a
the
problem of absenteeism.
But let's be fair on the governor. Let's be fair. If you've been to the East, you would know that the preparation that goes into funeral arrangements and some ceremonies can be a whole lot.
Okay.
Sometimes it could take 3 days. It could take days. I mean, my brothers who are watching all the way from the East will agree. But sometimes it takes a whole lot in terms of preparation, resources. However, this also borders on interfering with one's freedom to engage and privacy to choose what they want to do. But the governor is saying that if this is in a way affecting, the way people operate in terms of their work. Remember that this is a governor who just battled the sit-at-home issue on Monday. He also mentioned it in this speech. Monday sit-at-home, it became a norm. And he came to say, listen, it's not normal.
Extended weekend.
Exactly. It's not normal. Let's change it. And this is the footage where he had gone to the market space, spoke to the people and said, come out. You need to come out. We cannot continue like this. We need to build our own state. So I think he's still on that trajectory to ensure that people become more active when it comes to work. People become more vivid. People put in more effort as regards just picking too many holidays. I don't know if Anambra is a place of holiday, but it's. I believe they work hard.
Yeah.
But then again, if the governor,
Our brothers
the
from
number
the
one,
East, the Anambra, the Anambra
if he's
have
there
their
as a
hard
governor,
work.
and he's saying, "Listen, you guys need to do more."
Just to
That's
reiterate
different.
what I said earlier, I think we're not North Korea. Nigeria is a democratic state. You're not going to
We're not Dubai.
intervene in people's private lives.
Okay,
yes,
that's the
in that sense, and tell them what time to associate and who to associate with. Burials are a significant part of every culture, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because people are only going to die once. And if the loved ones feel they want to throw an elaborate ceremony for the faithfully departed, well, it's their business and it's their money. They haven't come to the governor to solicit for funds or say you should set aside X amount for burials every day. So it's their business. I think this is, the governor is taking it too far, and let there be a fine balance between governance and also private individuals' lives.
Anyway, you said it all. Let's see what Nigerians are saying. Let's go to YouTube first and get your comments very quickly. On YouTube, saying to Mrs. Johnson says, "Good morning, News Central. Good morning to you. Yes, we see you." It says, "What is the meaning of this? Is burial ceremony a business over there? Then again, if they are not blocking the road or affecting other people's businesses, then I think Mr. Governor is not getting the decision right. Is he going to pay for people to keep their loved ones in the morgue till Saturday? If it happens, they died on Monday." That's a good question.
That's a good
Why
question.
should we be discussing about this self? Well, we have to discuss it because it makes it a wake-up conversation. The people, the
everybody has to-
Anambarians are actually, agitating that. Why is this going
Until
on?
government stops you from burying your loved one,
You
then
will talk
know
about it.
why are we discussing it?
You will discuss
Or
it.
better yet, let's not forget also religion plays into this. If I am Muslim, right? Because if I'm Muslim and and I live in Anambra or I'm from Anambra State, and my lose a loved one, I have to bury them within 24 hours. And if they die on a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Friday, which falls within the weekday, are you going to ban me from burying them? I think that there's a lot that needs to be discussed. Besides just,
That's a lot.
Didn't the governor say he wanted to turn Anambra to Taiwan? Is this what they're doing in Taiwan?
You are the leader of an Apex Bank before. You should think by now you're bringing these solutions, not funeral issues.
Says, Soludo has nothing meaningful to offer Anambarians, hence his resort to these irrelevant issues. Let him train. Says he should train his son. Anyway, let's not get it
leave
personal.
people's children
Let's focus on the issue, okay? Governor Soludo is on a spree of misplaced priority. He says, in the name of productivity, does he know the whole economic activity that revolve around burial? Between Obi and Soludo, who needs psychiatrist attention now? Look at what. Anyway,
let's not go there.
Let's not go there. But let's go on X. Let's see what Nigerians are saying on X. Don't forget, these views are the views of you Nigerians, and not the views expressly shown here on News Central or expressed here on the program. Quick one. Let's see very quickly. We do have another tweet. Let's take this one. It says, "Is this man serious at all? Is he joking and putting us on, or just assumes Anambra people are stupid? A professor who is widely educated and traveled talking like, okay, this guy's not happy. It's obvious he's not happy." Let's take another tweet very quickly. This one says, "He's right. It's a big productivity drain. If you have lived in the village, you will know. Everybody knows everybody, and it's from one burial to another, relentlessly. While you have 3 already lined up, 3 more will be announced."
No, my own
I said
issue
that
again
too
is
as well,
what
that
is killing, because I can't remember the last time I attended the funeral. What is killing these people, or who is killing them?
Also, I think the issue here is there are no third spaces. There's no space between. There are no third spaces for where people can socialize, because if people are moving from one funeral service to another funeral service to go and...
But that's how it is, surprisingly.
Yeah, that's how it is
everywhere.
in some
of the villages.
Yeah, in the South, we're both from the South.
But funerals are sad events.
So
why are you going there to
It is,
celebration
but you
of life there.
But you see, some of these things are rooted in the history or the annals of culture. It's been there for long. I think I'm trying to understand what the governor is trying to do. He's trying to break the yoke and say, listen, I need you guys to think differently. leave this historic relevance on burials away and focus on improving. But
on turning Anambra to Taiwan.
Exactly. It's not just going to take, this is what people were, it's deeply entrenched. They've been used to these things for years, from the town criers to people wearing the same clothes, to the dancers, to the food, to everything. So it's part of the culture.
Okay, if civil servants, if there's a case of absenteeism and civil servants are abandoning their duty posts to attend funerals, that's a problem. Discipline problem, deal with them. But private individuals, businessmen, regular members of the public, I don't think it has a right to tell them how to spend their time.
Right.
They're not breaking any laws.
Anyway, let's go back to the reactions. Let's wrap the reactions up very quickly on X and see what Nigerians are saying. This one says, is this how Soludo intends turning Anambra to Dubai and Taiwan? Is his business if market owners attend burial every day? 9 open shop for them. I be 9 they help them pay their rent.
Good question.
Just get vision for a state. Well, I think that's part of the vision he's trying to share. Somebody, please tell Solution. He wanted to put Soludo, I guess. That burials were never why he was elected. Let's use his magic to bring us electricity, good hospitals, good road. Let him focus on these 3.
I got to say something to our good guys at the back. The reason why we're taking it difficult to read those reactions is because our monitor screen is really fine. If you can see from all 3 of us, we're middle-aged, late 30s individuals and early 40 individuals whose eyesight are gone. So bear with us. If we're reading,
Judy, I didn't know you had, like it happened in a sister station. I didn't know you were there when they gave birth to me. Or you've seen a copy of my birth certificate.
Let's go back to the kids very quickly. Let's take some more.
So we're going to take some more, but please bear with us if we're reading at the speed at which we're reading at.
Let's take these tweets very quickly again. Let's see if we have one more left very quickly. But I wanted to also react to that last tweet. But then again, we don't have time. We need to move to our next story. But just to mention on that last tweet, if we could put it back up. Now, she said that it should rather focus on hospitals,
governance,
governance, roads. And I'm a big fan. I'm a lover. I've always said that. Listen, there's no need to come into power and say you are going for 8-point agenda. I've always said it here, and I'll say it anywhere.
The low-hanging
focus on 2 or 3. Now, people don't understand. If you're coming into power, there are critical areas you need to just focus on. Give people power. Give them electricity. Give them, food, roads, and everything, and just pick it, and you see the changes. But then again, we do get it. We understand what the governor is trying to do. Let's move on to our next story, Benga. This one would excite you, maybe, or Nigerians.
Wow.
Former president.
Former vice president.
Yeah.
Is in the eye of the storm again, and many people.
My favorite.
It's almost as if there's a gang up against his presidential ambition, because people are saying, you've contested here, there. I think it's time you become a kingmaker. But the former Vice President, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has warned opposition parties against zoning their 2027 presidential ticket to the South. Opposition parties, which includes his own ADC, saying it may weaken their chances of defeating President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He argued that politics should not be driven by strategy. Should be driven by strategy, I beg your pardon, not emotion, stressing that no sitting Nigerian president has ever been defeated by an opposition candidate from the same region, and urge opposition groups to focus on building a strong national coalition instead of adopting what he called a self-defeating zoning approach. But let's take a listen to the former vice president.
But while we wait for that footage, there seems to be more of the release, a press release in that statement. He did make that statement clearly, and the party also, made it clear, louder, that this is what the candidate. Remember, he just got his form, like we talked about just over the weekend. 90 million naira paid. We did see the receipt, and people were asking on social media, why do you have to put the receipt on social media to prove that? I mean, he has gotten his form, but notwithstanding. What just happened now has clarified 3 things, and let me run through it very quickly. 1, this also clarifies why Peter Gregory Obi and engineer Rabi Musa Kwankwaso had to leave the party. One of the reasons why many said they, they left the party, regardless of what others were saying, is the fact that they felt there was no space for them to actually, represent the party as the candidates, as it were, because they felt that the former vice president was not going to stop. He
didn't respect his own formula.
Exactly. Now, we do hear, because we hear things as journalists, we speak to people, and they said there were internal conversations where they had met with him and said, Chief Chairman, I bet no vessel, can you just calm down small, make we run? And he said, no. And we saw those stories, if you recall. Those stories found their way to the limelight. First, they said he had agreed. He was going to. But then he came back and said, no, I never said so. So that's one of the reasons. Two, every other political party that's running for 2027 elections have all ceded their candidacy to the South. So it's pretty much going to look like it's only the ADC that is pushing to the North. So Atiku Abubakar is going to stand differently. And that again will point to another direction.
That's if he secures.
That's if he secures. But bring that come on. Bring that come on.
I mean, they haven't, you can't preempt
Let me ring the bell to that.
There's Rotimi Amechi, there are other people there that are also throwing their hat in the ring.
Come on.
It hasn't happened.
Let me use the word come off it.
Okay, so who is winning the Champions League finals?
Champions PSG.
Okay.
Come off it.
All right, guys, hang on. We have reactions. They're in our ears. Let's quickly run through the reactions following the statements that have been made by the former vice president and who is now posed to be the presidential candidate for the ADC. Let's take a look at some of the reactions we found on X. Now, bear me with my eyesight.
Valentine.
The first one is on Valentine.
I can help you.
Yeah, it says, won't matter if there was no zoning. Atiku fights his party over zoning, then doesn't support zoning when he wants to contest. That's a very good point. The very next one, let's pull it up very quickly. This is Onen, I think. It said, it is now clear na Atiku be Nigeria problem. Man on every ballot since 1999. Waiting they worry this man. That's a question, a rhetorical question there. This is Olili. He goes, Atiku's argument against zoning the presidency to the South sounds more like self-preservation than deep political wisdom. He's suddenly discovering electoral realities and historical precedents when it doesn't favor him. Yet in 2019, he ran against a northern incumbent without raising these same concerns. A masterclass in convenient memory. Zoning to the South right now is not sentiment. It's basic equity and an opportunity for genuine national building. Opposition parties should be building credible platforms, not fighting rotational fairness. Nigeria needs balance, not another round of selective arithmetic. Nigeria must be fixed, and yes, Nigeria must be okay. That's from Olili there. This is Chukwuemeka. The unity of a nation is always at the upper minds of great leaders. And then 80 years of age, Atiku's only hope of running is because he believes the North has the numbers, not that he is better than anyone in the South. That's injustice and unrighteousness. History will judge him. That's from Chukwuemeka there. But a warning. This is Echo Maestro, I think. Atiku has lost elections so much that losing doesn't really hurt him anymore. Talk about toxic relationship. He goes on to say he will rather see Tinubu win than to swallow his pride to support the South. I will advise KO to focus on wooing others for support.
There we go. So it looks like. Anyway, let's not preempt the ADC convention. It hasn't happened. But in the event, that is secure.
Big guy wrong, antebellum.
Let me say this, right? I said this yesterday, right? And unfortunately, I said this, and then now we're seeing this in the news. I can't wait for us to get to the point where rotation doesn't, seating the...
I mean, it's not in the Constitution. It's just a gentlemanly agreement.
It's just a gentlemanly agreement. And I completely understand, but I cannot wait for us to get to the point where tribe is, it's just a matter, it's just there, and we're picking candidates based on their track record, qualifications and all of that. That being said, this is very revealing of who Atiku really is. And I hate to be the person who does this. I mean, from the tweets and everyone, it's all revealing. Everyone have now seen your hand. I think it's clear for you to now take a back seat and now become a kingmaker. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The money that you want to use to buy presidential
90 million, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
You could have used this to throw it behind the weight of somebody else to make that change. I mean, look at Usman.
Why are those
But
funds
don't you think he has a chance? I mean, he stands a chance.
No, he doesn't. He didn't stand a chance in 1999. In 2005.
He came second in the last election.
He
came second in the last election.
So it's like Arsenal.
So one more step.
Arsenal is going to win.
Did you come first? Did you take the cup?
No.
Are you the president?
And so he has done calculations to see that he knows what.
You know what he could have been doing by now? You most likely would have been, in the AU. You could have been at AFDB. You could have been a diplomat. You could have done every other thing. No, what I'm saying is, all this time that you have been vying for office, you could have been in other fields being an office.
He's been contributing to nation building in his own. In his own way.
Take a page from Obasanjo's rule book. Take a page from Oshibanjo.
And why are you trying to? He's a Nigerian citizen. Why are you trying to disenfranchise him?
Oshibanjo is one of the most respected other statement when it comes to the international community, whether it's AU, whether it's ECOWAS, whether it's AFDB. But
the Constitution of Nigeria says he can run 5 million times.
5 million times.
So
but now that
why are you so interested in disenfranchising him?
That's another thing. So Judith, I know you're trying to envision a different life for the former vice president in case he doesn't win. But I think, number one, in all circumstances,
it's democracy.
It's democracy. He has the right to run. So even if he has a right to run, he has a right to run. However, albeit what is being said, it's just been pointed that with the statement that was made yesterday, as journalists, everyone is now trying to put 1 and 2 together to see why Peter Gregory Obi and Rabiu Kwankwaso had to leave. And it's no longer rumor that they had highlighted that there's this disagreement that it should be ceded to the South. And the former vice president has just confirmed that. He also highlighted that it's dangerous. He used the word that it's not Uhuru when you move it to the South. Rather, it should be in the North. And just yesterday, Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, in an interview, said, I'm ready to be Peter Obi's VP, like I said, and I'm ready to serve. And I think that lays to rest. Although, let me mention here, should the ADC still go down with their challenges ahead of the primaries and so on.
The legal challenges.
The legal challenges. Just like many have said, we won't be shocked if former vice president decides to step up and now play the advisory role to say, listen, if my party is having issues and it's becoming a daunting task,
I doubt it.
Now let me push all my efforts to you too.
I doubt it.
And, well, never say never. It's politics.
Yeah, and then I think focus now should be on the first hurdle for Alhaji Atiku Abubakar on the journey to Aso Rock. So before you become president, you need to emerge as the flag bearer of your party. So hurdle one is the ADC. He's going against a few other names.
Right.
Maybe all these things you're saying, maybe all the sentiments Judith is expressing might appeal to the emotions of the delegates, and they will decide not to vote for another.
Please,
no, I'm just saying, because it's logical, and they might see reason in what you're saying, and you're not just the only one that is thinking this. So many millions of Nigerians are thinking about this, and some delegates of the ADC, and he might not emerge as the flag bearer. So it's a possibility.
Let me just apologize.
So it's
here,
a possibility.
Right? Let me just remove myself from the equation here. This is just my analysis. I don't have any. It's just I'm just yellow. That's all. There's nothing interesting about me.
They understand.
Please don't pay any mind to me.
You were just looking at it from a different pot. Yeah. And it's basically like seeding. Like they do in football, FIFA. Just look at the pot and then pick and say, what if? So it's a case of what if. And we'll be having a lot of what ifs on Breakfast Central. But let's see what Nigerians are saying on YouTube very quickly. Atiku saying in his press release that zoning presidency to South wouldn't fly in the coming election is his own opinion. So says, as far as I'm concerned, it is only Atiku and the ADC that's going to let us, probably Tinubu is holding on to, okay, that's a jump. I didn't see the conclusion. Okay, probably Tinubu holding on to power in 2027 with their greed and not putting poor Nigerians trying to rescue their country from the hands of, okay, he goes on to call them some names. Oh, I so much love this very Judith, a whole lot. Okay.
This
so
very
direct and precise. Well, she said, what if? It's an if construct.
Thank
Take
you.
note.
See, please,
I doubt Atiku will support another candidate. The sister will replace Olive. Is hitting the right chord on Atiku, according to Michael. Okay. I hope the cord does not cut. Hold on to it so strongly. And then there's so many comments that we can't take all.
Thank
but
you, guys.
that's exactly what it is. It's going to be very interesting, whether we like it or not, in the coming months. And we're all here for it. We're here to bring you every information.
Yes,
do we have one more story, guys, that we could take?
Do we have time? Oh, we do.
Okay.
Okay. This time it's in River State. Let's quickly switch gears and bring you the political tensions that are rising in River State after the APC screening committee disqualified 65 aspirants, including former factional Speaker of the State House of Assembly, and that's Victor Oko-Jumbo, from contesting the party's state assembly primaries ahead of the 2027 elections. The affected aspirants are believed to be loyalists of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, while 33 aspirants that are linked to FCT Minister Nyesom Wike were cleared to participate. The development is further exposing the deepening power struggle within the Rivers APC, with concerns already mounting that the internal crisis could weaken the party's chances ahead of the next general elections.
Interesting.
Interesting times.
You know what comes to mind? Because if you pose this question to the Wike camp, they will tell you that, you know, they would use the lyrics of that famous Shaggy song. It wasn't me, because it wasn't them now. They're not in, they're in PDP. This is an APC affair. But the guests we had yesterday said
what
they
did
are
Teddy
in a
put in
rainbow.
coffee this morning?
The guests we had yesterday.
Benny's working on the coffee.
The guests we had yesterday said it's a rainbow coalition. So maybe there's a hybrid, there's a PDAPC type of situation.
It was shown yesterday. They came out
Right.
in throngs, in numbers yesterday.
And shame on the APC.
Why?
Shame on the APC.
Why?
And shame on the PDP.
Why?
And because this is a sham of democracy. I'm very sorry to say. The way that we have blurred the lines when it comes to democracy and how it's being played is a shame. So can we all accept that this is a one-party state at this point? Because if the two major parties are playing on the same side, then what is it?
I mean, you have coalitions sometimes. Like in South Africa, there's a DA and ANC government.
Decided to come together.
Yeah, they formed a coalition government.
Venga,
Yeah,
you just sound like a Yoruba man.
These are realities that are happening. No. But Judy, this is.
Hey, I know where you're going. It's not Yoruba.
But these are realities of the politics that we play in Nigeria and across the world. So
and our politicking.
you can argue that are they coming together for the right reasons or for selfish reasons? That's another conversation for another day. But that they have a government of national unity or some form of unholy alliance, the way you interpret it might be different. So I'm just putting that out there.
Anyway, it's good, but let's come back to reality.
Right.
I mean, in as much as we would, put a little humor here and there, try to lighten the mood. I mean, it's breakfast. But what we're seeing here is a clear case of what Nigerians call politics. So they've termed Governor Siminalayi Fubara as a weakling. If you check online, if you check what some politicians are saying, even some commenters are saying, come on, you should have known that this game is a game you have to put your all. Over the weekend, just for those who don't get the story, 65 allies of Governor Siminalayi Fubara were celebrating. They were dancing. Videos were online where they said they had conducted, they were done with their APC, screening exercise. And they were dancing, that they were calling, names, and they were, in gyration. Social media went agog with, oh my goodness, it's finished for the FCT minister. It's finished. Oh my God, it's finished, since they've all moved to the APC. Before we know it, some members of the PDP
also defected,
also moved to the APC, although that's going to be questionable because there's a particular name many said did not declare in the floor, which is the rule that you do that, the minority leader, you're supposed to do so, but it didn't.
Announce your resignation. Yeah,
and then
your
he moved.
defection.
So
yes.
all of these things happened in the twinkle of an eye. Only for yesterday, the list came out that these 65 who had decamped, all that gyration was for nothing. They were disqualified.
I feel like we've been too hard on Fubara. I want to apologize to him. I feel like I've been extremely hard on him. If I were also in his shoes, I think that I would have thrown in the towel and also given up, because there is really there's no moral, there's no character. And if you're in politics to serve the people, it's very clear that you're never going to serve the people. You're going to be always looking at your back and looking at your sides and be 3 steps ahead. It's clearly a Game of Thrones. It has gone far past a chess game, and my heart goes out to.
Anyway, what can you do at this point?
We have a guest who's going to break it down for
over
us
and done.
this morning. So we'll take our time to listen attentively and then ask the right questions like we usually do. We're streaming live on YouTube. Don't forget News Central TV. Let's bring to you our top stories for today here on Breakfast Central as we go into the thick of the action. This morning, the APC panel disqualifies Governor Fubara's loyalists, allies, clears Wike's allies as well. We'll talk about that in a bit. African France Summit, we'll look at that as well. That's a conversation we need to have. And JAM accepts education and culture candidates from UTME. We'll look at healthcare under scrutiny. Family demands justice over Aisha Abubakar's death, and then the front pages of the newspapers. You can join us then. But stick around. All the stories coming up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in a moment.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Fresh controversy has erupted within the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State following conflicting claims over a purported screening report for aspirants seeking positions in the State House of Assembly. The tension began after a list allegedly showing cleared and uncleared aspirants surfaced online and circulated widely across media platforms, sparking intense political reactions within the party. However, the Secretary of the Screening Committee, Honorable Tanko Yamowa, has now publicly distanced the committee from the document, describing it as false, unauthorized, and not issued through official party channels.
Well, in a statement, Yamowa noted that the screening exercise chaired by the Moriana Jibola had only concluded less than 24 hours earlier, insisting that no official list had yet been released by the party. The development has fueled confusion and speculation within political circles, particularly as reports suggest disagreements between party spokespersons and members of the screening panel over the authenticity of the report. Observers say the controversy raises broader concerns about transparency, internal democracy, and possible factional struggles within the Rivers APC ahead of the next phase of the electoral process. To help us unpack the implications of this latest development, we are joined by Publicity Secretary, Rivers APC Caretaker Committee, Mr. Chibuike Kenga. And later on, we'll also have another guest. Hopefully, we'll be able to make it to join us for this conversation. But thank you so much, Mr. Kenga, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. We must also mention...
Once again.
Yes, once again. Let's also mention very quickly, in the middle of this interview, we might just have to take a little break in the conversation and go straight to join the President's gathering and listen to some speeches. Then we'll come back and have the conversation. But now that we're starting, let's focus on it. We've seen back and forth. A lot has been said. 63 or 66, 33 from the other side. All that were screened, the screening was cancelled. Celebrations were, rife. People were dancing that they've been screened. What's really going on? Can you break it down for us and the viewers so we can understand what's really happening?
Okay, thank you. Quickly, let me make some clarifications. The reference you're making to Yamowa Tanko is fake news. There is no document signaling that he signed any paper indicating that he didn't sign the report of the committee. Those are fake news peddlers' handiwork to try to discredit what we're doing here in APC. There is no division. Those who are uncleared were uncleared by the screening committee. Those who are cleared are cleared. There are issues, there are no problems. We have people cleared and we have people uncleared, which was undertaken, predicated on on the Nigerian Constitution, the Electoral Act, the APC Constitution, and all that. So anybody claiming that we're speaking from both sides, there are factional APC saying it didn't happen and this didn't happen, there's nothing like that. The fact is that the screening committee of the Rivers State House of Assembly aspirants had finished their work and made their reports available to us, signed by the chairman, Moraina, signed by Yamatanko, all of them signed. You have the documents with you, and if you don't, you avail me your channel that I will send it to you. And you can make calls through to all the members of the committee to ascertain or to verify the authenticity or veracity of those claims that he had come to disparaging the position of the screening committee.
Now, Mr. Ekenga, for the sake of our viewers, could you run us through why it's important to have a screening exercise? Because a lot of those members that you're screening have held political office. They are currently members of the State House of Assembly. Why is it important for a party to screen members before the next round of elections? And what typically happens in these settings during the screening?
Okay, firstly, it's possible when you do second check. It's also possible to identify if there were some challenges that were not identified previously ab initio. So it is important that people present themselves, aspirants present their document, come in person to be able to, for the party to be able to ascertain their personalities, what they have done in the past 4 years, and what they previously in their life, particularly certificates, particularly being very loyal to the party in terms of meeting all the conditions as a party member, including but not limited to paying of membership dues, attending party meetings, and not involved in any kind of anti-party activities within the period under review.
You said that the document that has been circulating, it's fake news so far. So I do have to ask about whether or not the Rainbow, is it the Rainbow Coalition now? Is it APC or the River State chapter? Is it suffering an internal communication breakdown here, or is this just an evidence of probably a deeper factional divisions within the Rivers APC?
No, I didn't say that. I said the papers, the list you're seeing, is what I put up on behalf of the party, signed, authored by me.
Okay.
There is no other paper that showcases a faction. There's no other person who endorsed a counter to what we have put up as a party in the state. So whatever story you're hearing about the secretary of the screening committee is fake news, because the secretary of the screening committee signed the report which I issued, which we are trying to show on your screen now.
So if you're saying that document that is supposed to be leaked is faked, then has the party begun investigation regarding who must have circulated this document in the first place, and what is the purpose for this? And what could be the purpose for this?
Once again, I said the document you are putting up is authored by me, the publicity secretary of the APC, and it is authentic. I'm seeing it on your screen. It's authentic.
Okay.
It is true.
Okay.
I authored it on behalf of the party.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Can you confirm to us if the governor screening exercise went smoothly? Because when he was done, he came out and he didn't want to speak to journalists. And that led to many asking, maybe it didn't go well. Rumors have it that he was told to, go back and follow the agreement. As they say, agreement is agreement. And he's in your party now because you are in the APC.
Now, I've always been in APC. I'm a foundational member of APC. I've told you this already. I started APC from 2002, so I've still remained there. So the governor is a member of the party. But I can tell you, I'm not a member of the screening committee at the national. So I cannot say for sure what transpired. But I have not also seen other governors, other returning governors who were screened that came out to address the press or say what transpired. I have never seen. So that of the governor of Rivers State is not different. So if by what we hear, the courtesies that we extended to other returning governors, I'm sure that it was also extended to Governor Siminalayi Fubara. But ultimately, the decision as to who runs will be decided will be made by the party and leadership of the party at all levels. Okay,
but we agree that the governor is, there's statements that he's the number one of the APC in the state, just like every other governor is,
right,
as agreed by the APC. And we're also told that about 66 or 63 allies belonging to that work with the governor, the screening exercise was indeed cancelled. How true is that?
Well, the constitution of the party is clear on who is the leader of the party. So, like you mentioned, but on the issue of 63 or 60, whatever number you're mentioning, of the allies of the governor, how do you know that they're all allies of the governor? We had 98 persons who aspired to fly the flag of the party for the 32 constituencies in Rivers State. And I cannot, even as a publicity secretary of the party, pinpoint one after the other who are members of any group or faction. I know that we're one party, and at this stage, we remain one party.
Now, Mr. Ikenga, what's the next step for those who have been screened out, who've been disqualified from contesting under the flag of the APC? How do you plan to assuage their pains, or do you think they will still support those who are left, who scaled through the screening process?
The process is still on. They have from today for them to appeal their the position that asks them to remain uncleared to participate. So at the level of appeal, we cannot determine what happens. People can as well get cleared, or they can stamp whatever decision the committee had done. So it's at that point, after that is consummated, they will move to the next level of reconciliation, trying to assuage their pains, like you did say, or trying to reconcile and make them a lot more comfortable to participate, and believe that whoever the party ultimately takes is the person who fly the flag of the party for the good of all party members.
Right. Honorable Mr. Ikenga, I have to ask you, yesterday we had a member of the PDP who also emphatically, stated that that Siminalayi Fubara will not be emerging getting a ticket from the APC. And he also did say that he's off the Rainbow Coalition, a merger of the PDP and the APC. And so he's repeatedly clear. One of the things he said was that, he accused the Siminalayi Fubara's camp. Forgive me, I'm going to pause on my question, and we're going to switch gears for a second, sir. We did say that we'll have to pause on this conversation for a while. We're taking that break to switch gears to Nairobi, Kenya, where we have the president of Kenya about to address the press, or rather address a crowd at the Africa Forward Summit. Take a look.
Human history and the origin of wonder. Wherever you come from, you are not merely visiting. You are returning to the very beginnings of humanity. And so, with warmth, friendship, and pride, I say to you all, welcome home. Bienvenue chez vous, karibuni nyumbani.
Welcome home.
We gather, ladies and gentlemen, at a profound, consequential moment in global affairs. The foundations of international order are being reshaped by deepening geopolitical divisions, persistent conflicts, economic volatility, climate pressures, and widening inequalities. Long-standing assumptions about global stability, cooperation, and prosperity are being tested as never before. At the same time, shifting centers of influence, changing trade alignments, and the reconfiguration of global supply chains are redefining the architecture of the world economy itself. Yet, in moments such as this, fragmentation cannot be the answer, nor isolation the strategy. The times before us demand stronger cooperation, renewed multilateralism, and partnerships grounded not on hierarchy, but in sovereign equality, mutual respect, and shared responsibility. It is not how we do it. It is in that spirit that we convene this summit, grounded in our shared conviction that enduring partnerships must not be built on dependency, but on sovereign equality. Not on aid or charity, but on mutually beneficial investments, and not on extraction or exploitation, but on win-win engagements. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa and France have a unique opportunity to forge a forward-looking partnership that delivers shared progress while advancing Africa's long-term economic transformation. Africa approaches this summit not from the margins of global affairs, but as a strategic actor in its own right, endowed with vast natural resources, expanding markets, and one of the greatest reservoirs of youthful talent and innovation anywhere in the world today. We all know by the year 2050, 1 in every 4 people on earth will be African. That reality alone will shape the future of labor, will shape the future of markets, urbanization, energy demand, and global economic growth. Over the course of this summit, our deliberations will focus on priorities fundamental to Africa's development trajectory and long-term prosperity. Among them, domestic mobilization of resources for Africa's development at scale, reforms of the international financial architecture, development of transport, logistics, and connectivity infrastructure, energy transition and green industrialization, and of course, youth skills development to foster creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, and AI-driven transformation. First, we must confront with honesty and urgency the question of how Africa finances its own transformation. The era in which Africa's development was principally framed through aid, dependency, and unsustainable borrowing must give way to a new paradigm grounded in investment, innovation, domestic resource mobilization, and strategic partnerships built on sovereign equality and mutual benefit. Because Africa is not part of the global problem. Africa is, in fact, the solution to the global challenges that exist today, including those of Africa. Our continent possesses vast natural resources, critical minerals, fertile land, immense renewable energy potential, expanding consumer markets, dynamic entrepreneurs, and the youngest population in the world. What Africa requires today, friends, is not charity, but investments, not extraction, but value creation, not dependency, but mutually beneficial partnerships capable of unlocking shared prosperity. That is the essence of the Africa Forward Summit. It is about recalibrating Africa's place in the global order. It is about redefining engagements with Africa, including with long-standing partners such as France, away from outdated models of aid and asymmetrical dependency towards a framework anchored on investment, enterprise, innovation, industrialization, and mutually beneficial cooperation. And we are very clear about this. The current international financial system remains structurally unequal. African countries continue to face disproportionately high borrowing costs, constrained access to concessional financing, and distorted risk perceptions that are frequently disconnected from economic realities that exist in this continent. The bias embedded within global credit rating systems continue to penalize African economies, increase the cost of capital, and discourage long-term investment into productive sectors. This imbalance is neither sustainable nor just. It is one of the principal constraints on Africa's ability to finance infrastructure, industrialization, climate adaptation, and economic transformation at the scale that is required. That is why Africa has supported the establishment of the African Credit Rating Agency, an important step towards ensuring fairer, evidence-based, and context-sensitive assessment of African economies and investment opportunities. Its purpose is not to replace existing global institutions, but to correct long-standing distortions in risk perception that continue to increase the cost of capital for African countries and continue to discourage long-term investment into productive sectors. At the same time, we must recognize that the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund alone cannot finance Africa's development ambition. We have to be realistic. Even as reform efforts continue, the scale of Africa's transformation requires us to rethink the sources, structures, and instruments of development finance itself. Africa must increasingly finance Africa. Let me repeat that. Africa must increasingly finance Africa. What do I mean? Across our continent, enormous pools of domestic capital remain underutilized. Africa today holds more than $4 trillion in long-term domestic savings, including over $1 trillion in pensions and insurance assets, and more than $500 billion in central bank reserves. I am not talking about Europe, I'm talking about Africa. Yet, paradoxically, while this capital exists within African economies, governments across our continent continue to struggle to finance critical infrastructure, transport corridors, energy systems, industrial parks, logistics networks, and even affordable housing. There is capital in Africa, but Africa's development projects remain starved of financing. The issue, therefore, is not liquidity. It is risk architecture. That is why Africa is laying the foundation of a stronger, more resilient, and more self-sustaining financial architecture. Kenya, therefore, reaffirms its very strong support for the Alliance of African Multilateral Financial Institutions as a strategic platform for coordinating capital mobilization, risk sharing, and project execution across our continent. You remember, colleagues, that we did endorse at the last AU summit the Alliance of African Multilateral Institutions, starting with the World Bank and all the other institutions. Through institutions such as the Africa Development Bank, Africa Export-Import Bank or Afrexim Bank, Africa Finance Corporation, the Trade and Development Bank, Shelter Afrique Development Bank, Africa 50, and Africa Trade and Investment Development Insurance, Africa is steadily strengthening its capacity to finance infrastructure, industrialization, trade, housing, climate resilience, and economic transformation. These institutions are more than financial intermediaries. They are instruments of African agency, strategic sovereignty, and collective self-determination. Friends, we must believe in ourselves. That is why we strongly support the recapitalization of African trade and investment development insurance as a critical pillar of the new Africa financial architecture for development. And I must thank the President of the Africa Development Bank, who is right here with us, for spearheading this effort together with all the other multilateral institutions. This is because Africa does not need more fragmented institutions. Africa needs coordinated financial firepower capable of financing infrastructure, industrialization, trade corridors, and energy transformation in our continent on our terms. It is in this spirit that the proposed new Africa financial architecture and development framework, NAFAD, as we are calling it, seeks to align African multilateral institutions, sovereign investment platforms, pension systems, development banks, and private capital behind a coordinated continental investment strategy. Its objective is simple but transformative: to retain more African savings within Africa and channel them into productive, bankable, and transformative sectors of our economy. NAFAD is designed to unlock long-term domestic institutional capital by creating credible project pipelines, harmonizing investment frameworks, strengthening regional capital markets, and establishing mechanisms that de-risk strategic public investments. By lowering risk and risk perception and improving project preparation, African pensions and insurance funds will be better positioned to invest confidently in infrastructure, industrialization, energy, housing, and regional connectivity projects across our continent. And by the way, I am still talking about resources that are African, our own resources. Ultimately, NAFAD represents Africa's collective effort to build financial sovereignty by aligning African institutions, African savings, and African capital markets behind Africa's development priorities. And Kenya has already begun implementing the elements of this vision through the establishment of the National Infrastructure Fund, a platform designed to mobilize long-term domestic capital into strategic national projects. Already, our new National Infrastructure Fund has mobilized approximately $1 billion in the last 4 months, demonstrating the enormous potential that exists within African economies themselves. And this is money we have just mobilized here in Kenya. As government, we are deliberately partnering with the private sector to build confidence, reduce risk, and crowd in investment into transformative public infrastructure. Our objective is simple: to create credible mechanisms through which private capital can participate securely and profitably in Africa's growth story. Kenya's experience demonstrates what domestic resource mobilization can achieve. Over the last 3.5 years, we have mobilized nearly $4 billion locally for our affordable housing program. Through innovative domestic financing mechanisms, we are investing in housing, creating jobs, supporting enterprise, and expanding home ownership, while restoring dignity to millions of Kenyan citizens. This experience demonstrates a fundamental truth: Africa can generate substantial development resources internally when institutions are strong, policies are credible and predictable, markets are trusted, and citizens themselves become active participants in nation building. Excellencies, infrastructure development remains one of the most decisive foundations of Africa's economic transformation and continental integration. Africa's infrastructure financing gap continues to constrain productivity, continues to increase the cost of trade, weaken industrial competitiveness, and fragment markets across our continent. According to the Africa Development Bank, Africa requires between $130 and $170 billion annually for infrastructure investment, with financing gaps estimated at between $70 and $100 billion every year. Bridging this gap will not happen through public borrowing alone. It requires innovative financial instruments, blended finance mechanisms, de-risking facilities like the one I have talked about, and strong public-private partnership capable of unlocking institutional capital at scale. But the broader challenge before us is continental. We must accelerate investment in transport corridors, in ports, rail systems, roads, aviation connectivity, and integrated logistics ecosystems capable of binding Africa together into one competitive economic space under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Because Africa cannot trade effectively with itself while its economies remain disconnected from one another. Connectivity is not merely about infrastructure. It is about competitiveness. It is about regional value chains. It is about food security, and it's about industrialization. And ultimately, it is about shared prosperity. Equally critical is the question of energy. That is why we must fundamentally restructure and strengthen Africa's financial architecture to mobilize the scale of capital required to finance this transformation on African terms. Excellencies, Africa possesses some of the greatest renewable energy potential anywhere in the world, from geothermal resources in the Rift Valley and on to immense opportunities in solar, wind, hydroelectric power, and green hydrogen across our continent. Africa, therefore, has a historic opportunity, not merely to participate in the global energy transition, but to help lead it. But for Africa, the energy transition must also be a development and an industrialization transition. We must accept a future, and we cannot, let me repeat that, we cannot accept a future in which Africa simply exports raw green minerals, while industrial value addition, advanced manufacturing, and technological innovation take place elsewhere. That model belongs to the past. Africa must become a competitively industrial hub powered by clean energy, modern infrastructure, innovation, and strategic investment partnerships. Green industrialization presents our continent with an opportunity not only to contribute meaningfully to global climate solutions, but also to create jobs, expand manufacturing capacity, strengthen exports, deepen regional value chains, and accelerate structural economic transformation. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, perhaps Africa's greatest strategic asset is its people. This demographic and the demographic reality that it presents will profoundly shape the future of labor markets, the future of technology, urbanization, consumption, innovation, and of course, economic growth. Our youth population is not a burden to be managed. It is an extraordinary strategic advantage to be invested in. But demographic potential does not automatically become demographic power. It must be deliberately cultivated by education, skills development, research, digital inclusion, entrepreneurship, and technological innovation. We must equip Africa's young people, not merely to seek jobs, but to create enterprise, build technologies, drive industrial transformation, and lead the next frontier of artificial intelligence and digital innovation. And across our continent, this transformation is already underway. From Nairobi to Lagos, from Kigali to Cape Town, young Africans are redefining finance through fintech, transforming agriculture through technology, expanding digital commerce, building globally competitive startups, and creating solutions capable of shaping industries far beyond our borders. What they require is access. Access to quality education, access to digital infrastructure, access to affordable capital, access to markets, and of course, they will create the opportunities necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, none of these ambitions can be fully realized without peace, stability, and effective multilateral cooperation. Peace, security, and development remain inseparable foundations of sustainable progress. Yet across parts of Africa and beyond, protracted conflicts, violent extremism, unconstitutional changes of government, terrorism, organized crime, and climate-related insecurity continue to undermine stability, weaken institutions, and constrain economic advancement. Current estimates indicate that Africa accounts for nearly 40% of active armed conflict globally and close to half of all internal displacements worldwide. These figures underscore both the scale but also the urgency of the challenges confronting our continent. We must therefore reaffirm our collective support for African-led peace and security mechanisms, including the Africa Union Peace and Security Architecture, predictable financing, institutional capacity, and international cooperation in support of lasting peace. But lasting peace cannot be secured through military response alone. Peace requires confronting the structural drivers of instability: poverty, exclusion, unemployment, inequality, weak institutions, climate vulnerability, and the absence of economic opportunity, particularly for young people. That is why strengthening Africa's strategic autonomy in matters of peace and security remains an imperative. And it is why we reiterate with clarity and conviction the urgent necessity of reforming global peace and security governance, particularly the United Nations Security Council. It is both indispensable and unconscionable that a continent of nearly 1.5 billion people, represented by 54 sovereign states and constituting one of the largest blocs within the United Nations, continues to remain excluded from permanent representation on the Security Council. Such inequality, ladies and gentlemen, such inequality erodes legitimacy, undermines credibility, and diminishes confidence in multilateral systems itself. No global governance architecture can credibly claim to be democratic, to be representative, to be just, or fit for purpose, while a substantial part of humanity remains absent from the table where the world's most consequential decisions are made. The time has come, therefore, for the international community to recognize, without ambiguity or without delay, that Africa cannot and will not and must not remain subject to decisions taken without its equal voice on the table. The reform of the Security Council is not merely an institutional adjustment. It is a moral obligation. It is a strategic necessity. It is indispensable to restoring trust, legitimacy, and confidence in the international order itself. Kenya, therefore, remains steadfast in its support for the common African position as articulated in the Ezulwini Consensus and the Sita Declaration, which calls for Africa to be accorded permanent representation on the Security Council with all the prerogatives and privileges of permanent membership alongside additional non-permanent seats. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa does not need privilege, but fairness. We don't need exclusion, but inclusion. We do not seek confrontation, but partnership anchored on mutual respect, shared responsibility, and of course, shared progress. This summit, therefore, presents us with an opportunity to define a new era of engagement between Africa and its partners, an era based not on dependency, but on dignity, not on extraction, but on value creation, and not on short-term transactions, but on long-term shared prosperity. Because the Africa we envision is an Africa of confidence, an Africa of ideas, an Africa of innovation, an Africa of enterprise, an Africa that believes in itself, invests in its people, mobilizes its own resources, and engages the world as an equal partner in shaping balanced, prosperous, and peaceful global future. Africa is rising, determined to shape its own destiny, and increasingly prepared to shape the future of the world itself. That is the Africa Forward agenda. An agenda grounded not on dependency, but in sovereignty. Not in vulnerability, but in resilience. And not in limitation, but in possibility. That is the Africa whose time has come. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya is deeply honored to co-host this summit here in Nairobi. We look forward to productive deliberations, practical outcomes, and enduring partnerships capable of advancing prosperity, stability, dignity, and shared progress for our people and for future generations. I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for the warm welcome and for reinforcing Africa's economic position today and the importance of partnerships such as the Africa-France partnership. Asante sana, Your Excellency. And now it's my profound honor to welcome to the stage our next speaker, who is also our co-convener. He's a global leader who has consistently championed international cooperation and a world of rules-based order, has been at the forefront of advancing dialogue on global economic reform and strategic partnerships between Africa and France. Please welcome to the stage His Excellency, Mr. Emmanuel Macron, President of the Republic of France. Bienvenue, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you so much. Mr. President, dear William, Your Majesty, Head of State and Governments, Secretary General of Permanent Commission of the African Union, Secretary General of Francophonie, ministers, ambassadors, entrepreneurs, ladies and gentlemen, Asante sana, Mr. President. And I will switch in French, if you allow me. Le président a tout dit.
I think Mr. President said it all. And I just want to add a few convictions, if I may, so that we can move on to the next segment. What makes this summit so unique is the philosophy behind it, and I want to extend on that a little moment. Firstly, this summit all began with meetings with youth, with business leaders, representatives of sport and culture, and indeed, just after this session, we're going to be meeting with the captains of industry, with whom we'll be able to discuss things. But deep down, the conviction that I wanted to share with you is that the agenda that Africa and France need to have, the one that I stand for, must not look backwards, but just look straight ahead. As President Ruto just said, we need to keep our eyes ahead. And what I have been trying to do for 10 years now is to construct a relationship which looks backwards with lucidity, and we've been working with Cameroon, Rwanda, Algeria, and several other nations, and with which looks with bravery at the present, looking at the necessity of investing in sport and culture and creativity, looking at co-development and co-investment, and which is built on respect for the fact that Africa has its own agenda. The relations between Africa and France, as we see it, as the way we want to implement, are built on courage, respect, and a will to have a shared agenda. That's what we've been working on for 10 years. We spoke about it yesterday, so I won't go into it now. Why am I so convinced that this is the right way 10 years down the track? Because the challenges of Africa and Europe are shared challenges. We all want peace, prosperity, sovereignty. Europe has always been fighting for this, and after the Second World War, the EU was built on this struggle for peace and sovereignty, and now the European agenda is indeed one built on strategic autonomy so as not to depend on American or Chinese power, and when we want to defend the rule of law, international law. We believe in equality, in equal footing trade relations. We defend the climate. That is what Europe is all about. And that is the exact same challenge that Africa has before it. What Africa wants is peace, prosperity, and independence. And deep down, this partnership that is embodied here in this Africa Forward Summit is a bond between Africa and Europe. This is what France is working for: peace, prosperity, and this independent, this strategic independence. It's a very powerful thing. And if we can do this, then it will enable us to reconstruct together a multilateral order that has been thrown into upheaval, been jeopardized, affects all of us. And deep down, this can be a strong basis for moving forward together. And in terms of peace, I don't want to repeat what President Ruto said. Peace is going to require African unity. And I really firmly believe this. And I'm delighted to see so many of my brothers here, heads of state and government from so many nations who have come to Nairobi. I know that you're all very busy, so I'm very grateful to you for making this, because it really does share this image of a united continent, from Maghreb right down to the Indian Ocean, the south of the continent, Western Africa, Central Africa, and Eastern Africa. Remember, all of these different parts of Africa, given that it is so large, are all part, nonetheless, of one continent with a shared agenda. Which means that if we want to be beside you, it means we have equal representation, better representation for Africa in international instances such as the UN, the financial institutions, and we want it represented in the Security Council of the UN. as we have also been fighting for Africa to have a permanent seat at the G20. We've been fighting for this for years, and we've now made it a reality. And we are fighting for an agenda, along with the Secretary General. We've been talking about this for an African UN presence, which will be all the better placed to defend its own peace and security operations, particularly through the UN missions. We hope to see all the wherewithal given to Africa to ensure its own sovereign security. The African continent needs better representation, and Africa has the capacity to build on its strengths. So what we stand ready to do is assist you financing that with a reworked security arrangement which is respectful of the sovereignty of each African country, but never eclipsing each nation's sovereignty. And I'm delighted to hear from your introductory remarks a moment ago that we can build together a shared agenda to overcome the peace and security challenges that we are facing, continue to work together so that the whole of the UN can move forward on a more equitable basis. Prosperity next. With President Ruto, I was discussing this. I think that he is absolutely right when he's talking about the prosperity of the continent. It's clear, it's simple. No, what I'm offering is not to offer assistance. Those days are behind us. And we know that there are budgetary challenges in some instances, security challenges in others. These are realities that we need to be realistic about, but we need to rethink our North-South relations. And we need to look with lucidity at all of the cross-cutting benefits that Africa can derive from its diaspora. Those who are working very, very hard in many, many of our countries and send remittances back home are another important lever that we must not overlook. But the main notion I want to focus on is co-investment. What is co-investment able to achieve? It means investing in human capital, the young talents in Africa, in a formal economy. One of the major difficulties here is too much of the African economies that are underneath the tip of the iceberg as informal economy. It's about time we brought them into the value chains and to structure your agricultural sector and your industrial sector in such a way that it will be stronger than ever, so that Africa will no longer be seen as a place for rare earths and other resources to be extracted, but rather to be a partner. So we're working towards a transformation of investment relations, investing in value chains, energy, sustainable development, building on your strengths and your youth and your talent. And this is what the Business Roundtable is hopefully going to enable us to structure by looking at investing in AI, health, the blue economy, and sustainable agriculture. So what we need to do is look at the partnership that we want together through a logic of investment. And this is where we see this agenda of prosperity and sovereignty altogether. Getting Africa forward on the economic level means greater sovereignty and autonomy. It's important for Europeans as well to have more strategic autonomy in its partnerships. We need to ensure that we do not become dependent on the two major powers who in some ways look like they're going to eclipse everything. And it's not just France and Europe today who are going to mobilize all of the critical minerals or rare earths that we're going to need for the future. It's neither France nor Europe that will be here giving you diktats on the way forward. forward. No, those days are way behind us. No, the European agenda has every interest in seeing you march strongly towards a sovereignty and autonomy, because they're the same goals that we have. And if you are successful in this hunt for sovereignty, be it with agriculture, with economy, or wherever, then you are also offering more solutions to us. So your success is our success. So when you invest in your populations and have them succeed, that means fewer people fleeing poverty. And so this again is our success and your success hand in hand. So here what I want is for all of us to take a leap together. This is not an agenda which is univocal, which is top-down from Europe to Africa. No way. It is an equal footing partnership built on mutual respect. And we're going to build this together with respect, lucidity, and courage. And that is why, if we're going to be successful in this, we need business leaders, and that's what we announced yesterday. And this is a big first, 23 billion euros of investment in the private sector. These are for industry, for firms in the fully private sector companies in Africa. These 23 billion euros of investment is 14 billion for French firms in Africa, 9 billion in investments for African businesses on our continent. On your continent. And so this, we are hoping, will be the jolt that we need to inject more momentum into the process. All of this is going to, as President Ruto said, be based on quite simple things. A new partnership, a new vision for managing resources, for sustainable agriculture, for having tax and financial policies that are more consistent. It's also going to mean that we can mobilize international funding better, be it the World Bank, be it with the IMF and with other international, with special drawing rights, with all kinds of mechanisms and debt restructuring that can move us all forward. So it's a true strategy for guaranteeing peace, and that is why the ITD here in Nairobi is so important. We're going to be able to work with you, with the ATD, so as to move forward, so that ATD can play its full role continent-wide, and in this way prove successful. This strategy is a whole new paradigm shift, and it's going to require a new financial paradigm shift. And this is all part of our shared strategy. Other than that, I would say President Ruto said what I wanted to say, that I think this summit embodies our new partnership, and I think he said it better than I ever could. So I want to endorse what he said. In a moment's time, we will be meeting with business leaders. And we'll be discussing growth, we'll be discussing finance and investments, and then after that, we're going to have the outcome of this Africa Forward Summit with the declarations of those investments, and then together with President Ruto, we're going to bring to the G7 in Evian, on behalf of all of you, the message from this forum, and then throughout the year, at the IMF, World Bank, at the UN, we are going to showcase and push this shared agenda. And that is why this summit, in my opinion, is going to enable us to jointly set forward our upcoming path. So I don't want to take up any more of your time, dear ladies and gentlemen, but I just wanted to extend my thanks to President Ruto for agreeing to host this outstanding summit here in Nairobi. And I'm delighted to be here with you, with my brothers and sisters from all around Africa. And I'm looking forward to working on all of the input that we can pool, your strengths, your energy, so that we have a new African-French partnership. This agenda for peace and prosperity is something that I truly aspire to. And it's something that, with a lot of respect and humility, that I want to put at the service of this continent, the world's youngest continent. And even last year, we saw had the strongest rate of growth from around the world. So it's not only the continent of the future, it's already a power and a strength in the world today. And I am proud to be standing at your side and to try humbly to build with you this agenda in which we will be investing heavily. We want to work with you. Long live friendship between Africa and France. Thank you.
A warm, big round of applause for His Excellency. Thank you, Mr. President, for reinforcing the shared opportunities between Africa and France to continue working together. And now I'd like to please welcome on stage one of the world's foremost champions of multilateralism, peace and security, sustainable development, and global solidarity. Please welcome to the stage His Excellency, Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. Welcome, Your Excellency.
President William Ruto, President Emmanuel Macron, congratulations. Congratulations for convening this Africa Forward Summit, and congratulations for forging this renewed partnership between France and Africa for African development. Your Majesty, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the name of this summit captures the moment and the mission: Africa Forward. Forward through one of the most turbulent global moments in living memory. Africa is not waiting. Africa is moving, and Africa is leading. African continents are driving one of the defining debates of our time on how to reform a global financial architecture designed in 1945 for a world that no longer exists. Africa played a leading role in the approval of the Pact of the Future by the General Assembly of the United Nations. It is African leadership building new tools like the Borrowers Platform, and so that the countries can speak as one and negotiate from strengths. Challenging the credit rating systems that locks too many of the borrowing tools they need. Africa has had a leadership in securing the Seville commitment to expand the lending power of multilateral development banks, to mobilize private capital at scale, and to deliver relief from the debt burden crushing developing economies. It is African leadership through the African Development Bank that is advancing a bold vision to reform the continental's financial architecture from within, mobilizing African resources for African priorities and prosperity. Africa is driving a UN framework convention on international tax cooperation so that countries are no longer cheated out of what is what is rightfully theirs. And I want to praise the African leaders that have understood that it's absolutely essential also to do everything with the adequate policies and strategies to mobilize a much stronger share of national resources in order to be able to accelerate the development of the continent. And it is African leadership, alongside the small island states and other developing countries on the front lines, that has placed the climate emergency where it belongs, at the center of the global agenda. This is not a continent waiting for solutions. This is a continent producing them. But let us be honest about what stands in Africa's way. A global system designed without Africa and still largely operating without Africa, perpetuating century-old injustices. A continent of more than 1.5 billion people with no permanent seats on the UN Security Council, as was referred by President William Ruto. Without the voice, the representation and decision-making power it deserves inside the international financial institutions that shape this economy, it's not Africa that loses, it's the world that loses the fact that the voice of Africa is not conveniently taken into account. Meanwhile, as we all know, official development assistance is collapsing. Aid budgets cut, partnerships unwound, commitments walked back just as the need is greatest. So this is not only a financial crisis, this is a crisis of solidarity. Take climate change. Africa did not cause it, yet the continent is warming faster than the global average, bearing the harshest consequences in displaced communities, lost harvests, and economic shocks. Today's global energy turmoil, volatile fossil fuel markets, fragmented trade is deepening fiscal stress, inflation, and stunted development across the continent. Africa must be at the center of climate justice. The continent holds 60% of the world's best solar potential and receives 2% of global clean energy investments. With the right finance, Africa could generate 10 times more electricity than it needs by 2040 entirely from renewables. Yet, 600 million Africans still live without electricity. And 1 billion still rely on unclean cooking, a crisis that takes 800,000 lives a year, mostly women and children, mostly out of sight. And on average, the continent faces borrowing costs twice as high as OECD countries as an average, draining resources that should be building the future. That is not a market verdict on Africa. It is a verdict on the injustices of the system. The continent also holds extraordinary reserves of the critical minerals the green transition depends on. For too long, the pattern has been the same. Africa's resources have been extracted, the value captured elsewhere, the environmental damage left behind. The United Nations panel on critical energy transitions minerals points the way. Fair value chains, in-country processing and manufacturing, transparency, environmental and human rights standards, and meaningful benefits for affected communities. No more exploitation, no more plundering. The people of Africa must benefit first and most from the resources of Africa. And going back to climate change, adaptation must no longer be an afterthought. The adaptation finance gap must be closed. Africa is paying an enormous price in relation to the devastation caused by climate change, and Africa has been denied the resources and the capacities able to protect their populations and their infrastructure in these circumstances. Climate finance with justice is a must in today's world. Excellences, ce sommet porte sur un partenariat nouveau, réinventé par une génération nouvelle. Un partenariat d'égal à égal, fondé sur la complémentarité et l'intérêt mutuel.
Mutual benefits. This means that we must co-invest in industries that have been created by Africans. Strengthening universities and African research institutions, developing African capacities in terms of artificial intelligence so that AI can be shaped by African data, African languages, African researchers, and African leadership. Building partnerships which are built on the roadmaps of Africa, the free trade areas in Africa, the Agenda 2063, and the national development priorities. And this means funding African priorities with fair conditions for all, with capital that is accessible. The biggest transformation of this century is not a market-pay generation, and by 2050, 1 out of 4 people on the planet will be African. Young leaders here at this summit demonstrate and show the face of this new partnership. Right across this continent, millions are working, they're coding, they're cultivating, they're building, they're organizing, and they're imagining the future. And they are asking for inclusive democratic governance and responsible institutions. Dear friends, the success of the continent is not just an African challenge. When Africa succeeds, the entire world wins. The ambition in Africa requires large-scale investments, fairer international systems, and partnerships built on mutual respect. Together, let us move forward with Africa, with trust, solidarity, and the hope of a shared future. Thank you very much.
Another big round of applause for His Excellency. Thank you so much.
And you're welcome back. Earlier, we brought you live visuals there from the Africa Forward Summit, the Africa-France convention that's happening live in the capital of Kenya, Nairobi. We saw the welcome address from the president of Nairobi, that's William Ruto, as well as the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, as well as the UN spokesperson, the Secretary General, I beg your pardon, and that's Antonio Guterres, all talking about the importance of collaboration between France and Africa, and coming at a time as this, also talking about technology, human capital development, and what it would mean for the emerging economies in the continent. Now we'll switch gears to come back home here to Nigeria. I must apologize for our break in our broadcast, because earlier we did have a guest from the APC in River State, and that was GBK Ikenga, just talking about all that's happening in the polity in River State as regarding APC screening for members who are vying for tickets come the general elections for 2027, both at Siminalayi Fubara, the governor of River State, as well as those on his camp and those on the Wike camp. Unfortunately, we cannot continue with that discussion, so we do apologize, but we'll try to bring you more update, because again, events keep unfolding, and only time will tell in a couple of hours what will happen regarding the screening exercise that is still ongoing. Let's switch gears here to bring you some update, and this time it's pretty much about a very sad situation here is regarding healthcare. It's been exactly 4 months since the death of Aisha Abubakar following alleged medical negligence at Abubakar Imam Urology Center. Now, the incident sparked outrage across Kano and reignited conversations about accountability in the healthcare system, patient safety, and the growing concerns over alleged medical negligence in public health facilities. And beyond the grief and trauma, the family says it is still seeking answers, as well as justice and reforms that will serve as a form of justice for the wife and their mother, as well as the daughter of these families. Our correspondent, Stephen Enoch, brought us this report. Take a look.
Few months after losing his wife, Abubakar Mohammed says that life has never remained the same. Inside his home in Kano, memories of Aisha Abubakar still lingers, while the pain of her absence continues to weigh heavily on the family she left behind. Abubakar says that he is still waiting for justice.
The negligence needs to be followed up to the logical conclusion, because it's clear negligence, it's clear medical negligence, which is preventable. The government has set up a committee of investigation to investigate what has happened, but up to this moment, nothing has been heard, because they called us once And I think that what prompted even them calling us, maybe as a result of a petition written by human rights group. I think that was when they must have called us and heard from us, and they now told us that in 1 week's time they will call us and they will even come for condolence at the committee level, which up to this moment nothing has been done, almost getting to 4 months. So we have not had anything from government. We are still waiting for justice.
Abubakar recalls the painful moments he struggled to break the news of their mother's death to the youngest child, a moment that still brings tears to his eyes.
So the first day we came back home with her, so she now asked me, where is my mom? I say, well, your mom, she went somewhere, but I now tried to condole her and now we slept. So the following morning, she now asked me, where is my mom? I say she went somewhere. But she now later tell me that, well, but somebody told me that my mom is dead. I say, yes, your mom is dead. So just keep praying for her.
At some point, his emotions overwhelmed him. Abubakar explains how difficult it has been adjusting to life without Aisha.
Well, it's not easy to manage as a father and also to manage the motherly role at the same time. So we have been managing. It's not easy actually, because even of recent, I thank God for even keeping me alive, and the process of trying to make breakfast for myself. The gas exploded and even burned my legs. So I was opportune that the kids, I took them for holiday. They were not at home, so that when the incidents happened, so my parlor got up on fire. I tried to control the fire and catch up. So I'm still managing and treating myself, as you can see.
He says that he believes he will see his wife again and has some words for her.
It's a trial, so we'll maintain it, we'll pray, and I pray Almighty Allah should grant her Al-Jannati Firdaus, and may Allah unite us in the hereafter.
For many residents following this case, the death of Aisha Abubakar has become more than just a personal tragedy. It also intensifies calls for improved patient care, transparency, and accountability in public healthcare facilities across Kano. In Kano, for News Central, Stephen Enoch.
Very sad conversation there. Well, we'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we will discuss another issue. Do stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
Let's bring you the top stories at the top of the hour. Let's get into some of the biggest stories. One of them is education. And the federal government has announced major changes to Nigeria's tertiary admission process, exempting candidates seeking admission into education programs and non-engineering agriculture-related courses in colleges of education and polytechnics from sitting the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME. Now, the decision was announced by the Minister of Education, Tunji Alausa, during the 2026 JAMB policy meeting on admissions held in Abuja. Now, according to the new policy, candidates applying for national certificates in education, that's the NCE programs, with at least 4 credit passes will only be required to register with JAMB for credential screening and admission processing through CAPS. The exemption was also extended to national diploma programs in non-technology agricultural courses.
Well, it's also mentioned that the government said the move is aimed at widening access to tertiary education and encouraging enrollment in teacher education and agriculture, which it described as critical sectors for national development. Meanwhile, the federal government approved 150 as a minimum admission cut-off mark for universities and nursing colleges, while polytechnics will maintain a 100 cut-off mark. Institutions conducting post-UTME screening were also directed not to charge more than 2,000 naira. Well, joining us is the team lead at Dev Reporting, and we have Mr. Majid Alabi, who's here with us. Thank you very much for being here this morning. Updates: 150 cut-off mark, 100 polytechnics. I've seen reactions on people are saying, no, now this shouldn't be, especially for medicine. It should be, keep it higher so that those who get into that particular field are those who merit and are well chosen, qualified. Let's start. I think that's like one of the biggest questions everyone is highlighting.
Yeah, I think there is a need for people to actually understand why taking admission requirements. It's more than 150. There is no university in Nigeria that will admit 150 for certain courses. It's not possible. For you, with 315 during the last admission year, I can tell you that a lot of candidates could not even get admission in Nigeria. I'm the one saying that. I had candidates who actually scored 314, 315 and could not get the courses of their choice like medicine that had to go to other courses. So the essence of pegging it to 150 is somebody want to read other courses that are not subscribed at all. Probably you are talking about, I don't want to mention any particular course.
So they don't feel
that
you are looking down on them.
Looking down on them. But there are courses that are not subscribed. There are institutions that don't have enough enrollment because of distance, because of insecurity, because of challenges. It is actually not bringing them. So there are so many other criteria used to actually enroll admit students. We have what we call SSCE. We have the post-UTME, we have the UTME. In some institutions, you have to calculate. The entire UTME is just 50. Because out of 100, they are going to say, okay, out of 400, they divide whatever you get by 8. So if you score 200, it means you have only gotten about 20 over 50. Then you have your post-UTME, which goes for like 30. You have your SSCE, if you have 5 credits. So the 5 credits, if you have A1 parallel, then you have 45, then you have 2020. So for those who have D7, C6, C5, so they are calculated in a way that at the end of the day, when you bring all these things together, that's when you have the percentage of 100. So it is not at 150, but it's been observed that there are some private institutions that are just coming up. What they do is that they just admit anybody who comes their way because they are looking for money. And what JAMB has said is that nobody who scores below 150 is entitled to go into any university.
Whether private or not.
Whether private or public. Nobody. So nothing lower than 100. Nothing for polytechnic and college education. But because you have seen in some schools, it is difficult on this side of the country. If you want to gain admission, for instance, LASU has over 80-something thousand subscription this year. Candidates who chose LASU. Unilag has more than 70,000 enrollment students who preferred University of Lagos. That's how you see it, up to University of Ilorin, up to ABU. But there are some institutions in the remote areas that are looking for candidates and they could not see. And the next thing you see is that they are going to admit even anybody with 80. And that's what the federal government, their admission policy meeting, before the admission policy meeting will have heard, they will have actually looked at the performance of students across the country. So it's just not determined. It's a challenge that we all have as a nation that we face. So, and I think beyond that, I just wanted to clarify that it's not that, oh, everybody goes for...
Right. Yeah. But leaving don't you think that you're dropping the bar in terms of doing the service to our education sector? Because if that score is at 150, for entrance, you have to pass, at least that's the cutoff point. Then what does it say about those that were producing to be the leaders or our teachers in our primary and secondary schools, or in our education system? So those who are supposed to be like our teachers, don't you think that we're doing the service to such an important, integral sector or part of?
So let's separate these issues. The first question is about the 150 benchmark.
150 benchmark.
This second question is on exempting people who are going for college education or polytechnics, going for education courses to be exempted from UTME, and also asking them just for 4 credits in their SSCE. That's a disservice to education. And I'm very disappointed in that decision.
Right.
And we are going to actually, we will have a lot of problems because we already have the problem.
Right.
They are unable to actually dissect and be able to diagnose the crisis that has led to a lot of people not wanting to go to college education. In the past, if you go to grade 2 and you go to college education, you are going to be best of teachers. Yeah. But rather than thinking that people are going to be attracted into education because the mode of admission has been reduced, the cutoff mark or the requirement has been reduced. That's not going to happen. What you are going to have is that every Tom, Dick, and Harry, the dregs in the system are the ones that are going to opt for education. And the problem that they have not been able to identify is this. The problem is not that people don't want to go into teaching. The problem is because people actually do not see the reason why they should go into teaching, because our reward system is terrible.
That is true.
Because the reward system is bad. So what you are saying is that somebody who is going to become the teacher of my student, of my children, is going to be somebody who is only pitied to come into the system because you don't have it, and they are going to now grow to become lecturers in tertiary institutions, because we have seen teachers who actually moved from being primary school teacher, secondary school teacher, and moving to the highest level of becoming a professor in the university.
Right.
So if you are saying that you want to reduce the requirement level for people going into education or going into agriculture, then why are you not reducing even for medicine? Why are you not saying people who are going to, because the teachers who are going to teach these students are the ones that you say they don't even need to have anything good before they can become teachers.
It's very important,
Yeah, but let's talk about another aspect of this announcement. Universities should not charge more than 2,000 naira for post-UTME. Does the Ministry of Education have a right to do that? So, and isn't that interfering in the internal? I know they are regulators, but you're not the one that is powering these CBT centers and.
No. So what actually happened is this: if you look at what actually led to the introduction of post-UTME, post-UTME came at a time when UTME became a challenge that a whole lot of people. All these rogue websites, all these malpractice merchants became very established. Special centers became so established that a whole lot of Nigerians felt there's no trust in the UTME being conducted. Over the past 6-7 years, we have seen tremendous change in the security system, in the quality of examination, in the integrity over time. So when they introduced post-UTME, a lot of institutions now turn it to money-making venture, a place where how they could get revenue. So you see a whole lot of institutions introducing 10,000, 15,000, and now making it even more than acceptance fee for the schools. And there was now need for some authorities to actually rein them in. Because if you don't do so, Nigeria is not like US or UK, where you apply to institutions directly. You apply to your institution directly, institution conduct admission requirements directly. The essence of introducing JAM was to regulate the excesses of our institutions. So most of the institutions are not using private systems to conduct exams now, to conduct post-UTME. What they do is actually to sit in the corner of their offices, allow the children to have the exams in their various homes with their laptops. So it's just the software that they are using, so nobody is coming to any center. For instance, if Unilag is conducting post-UTME.
Well, how do you prevent malpractice in that sort of
situation?
No,
excellent.
If I'm doing an exam in the comfort of my house, I can just be opening the text.
You cannot, and that's why a lot of people. Let me explain to you. Last year, more than some thousands of students were actually disqualified by the University of Lagos.
Why?
Because they have a software that was able to monitor your environment. Where you are writing,
there's a camera, right?
Yes. So they are watching from it. It's just like what JAMB is also doing.
Okay.
Let me give you an instance. Somebody was doing something in Ibadan the other day about hijab. In the office of JAMB, they were watching what was happening at the centers. There are some requirements that you must have. That's why we are talking about the integrity of examination. I've been involved at a time where, yes, technology, where JAM was conducting exam in data. Somebody was cheating. They were blocking the CCTV. They were doing everything.
Bad guys.
And JAM monitored them, organized security, and they were able to move all the way from Abuja to Delta. And those guys were still there. And they were able to get them because they were able to pin them. So that's the beauty of technology. University of Lagos, for instance, will conduct exams. I could tell you, they ask you, they test your system, they test your audio, they test everything. And once they see there are certain things you don't need to do, if they see that there are movements around you, you are penalized because you have been warned. You have been told these are the things to just do. Face your exam, listen to instructions, they are monitoring you. So by the time you are opening things down, you are doing this, then they already got to know that these are the things. And what happened last year, there was a particular IP address, that students took exam. And they found out that almost all of them score very high. So they had to investigate. And when they investigated, they checked the video and they realized that almost all the people who passed through that particular IP address, they were involved in malpractice. And all of them were, some of them went to court and they showed the evidence. These are the things that you did, these are the things. So technology has really helped us, except we don't want to do.
I'm also hearing that those who will be sitting for the next UTME can use their laptops.
So yes, it's a new development.
That's a new one.
Which we have not been
What if I install, some apps that can block?
Technology. We haven't tested this. Before now, they say you cannot come in with bracelets, you cannot come in with eyeglasses,
glasses,
we cannot
so you don't use the
except
glass
it's recommended, even hearing and things like that. They had such issues before. So if they are now saying they have power to detect if anything, or if anything silly is in your system, then probably they may be saying the right thing. But I'm afraid that we are running away from our responsibility. You don't expect a student who is coming, except it is optional. Even if it is optional, how long is it going to take you to set up my system, download the software into my system? How do you want to do that? We will have to look at that over time. How does it work? Because most of the centers where you are conducting examinations, they have collected money for providing these services. They must have certain number of computers. For UTME, you must have about 250 number of computer. You must have backup. You must have stable power supply. You must have backup power system. You must have waiting area. Those are requirements that must be there. So why, except you want to say students should continue to have the exams in their comfort, in their homes, which can be conducted. Just like I said, post-UTME is being conducted. They check you. They know where you are writing the exam. The only thing is the number. If you are going to have the number as heavy as that, how many can you monitor? Because the problem we have is that our CBT centers, because they are controlled, they are owned by private entities. They are also looking for money, and many of them are also compromised. And that's part of the challenges that we have had over time.
Okay. You raise concerns about when we're talking about whether or not this is going to do a disservice to the educational system in its entirety. And you raise very serious concerns about the culture of our education system and the fact that our instructors and our teachers, if they have to go through, because of how it's not attractive and we do not, we don't reward merit. What then is now the solution to our problem? Because if the person who is in charge of steering the Ministry of Education and the education sector is lowering the mark and exempting, education and agricultural candidates from UTME and JAMB itself, what then is a solution to fix it from the board itself before? Is it catastrophic already? Have we veered away from the path completely?
Yeah, so
is there no solution?
The problem is simply from the fact that we have people who really do not understand the sector at the helm of affairs.
Are you saying the minister doesn't understand?
It is not just about being a medical doctor. It's not about living in abroad for quite a long time. Our minister is a medical doctor who practiced in the US, and he does not, I can say it very clearly, he does not have a clear understanding
it doesn't work. It doesn't work alone. He has advisors.
Wait, let me explain.
Okay.
We have a system in Nigeria where the boss is always right. When the boss, let me give an example. The same minister came up and spoke about the language of immediate environment, that the using local languages to teach should be raised from our system. And we have seen that a former minister, late Babs Fafonwa, tested this and saw that it was the best for us. Only that because if you use your language of immediate environment to teach, people understand it better. We saw what he did in Ile-Ife, where they had some primary schools are being trained using the language of immediate environment and those being trained using English language. And their performance at the end of the day showed that those who were taught with their language really understood what was taught.
But the testing will be done in English.
No. The test will be done. It's not that they are not going to teach in English. What we are saying is the language of
instruction.
So English is a subject, and English should be treated as a subject. We have adopted this English, and that is a major challenge that we have seen that a whole lot of Nigerian students find it extremely difficult to even express themselves. Once you teach them in school and they drop their bags, they go back home. You are talking about the people who are in city. Go and tell the people who are in the interior.
The issue of teaching in mother tongue is that there is no text for it, right? And it's also somewhat exempt. It exempts other students, right? For example, my mother tongue or my father's language is he's from Utuguang, Obudu, and they speak in Kerera. Are you going to tell me I've never seen any text of their language in it? So there is actually no textbook, no instructors, nobody who is documenting their language enough to translate into their local dialect to teach them. Are they teachers who can teach them, or are there schools that can train those teachers that can teach? There is so much to it that I don't think it can work.
Nigeria has about 250, more than 250
it's 500
languages.
plus.
So if you have more such, in Southwest, for instance, there is a common language that unites everybody, and that is Yoruba. That does not mean that an Ijeshaman doesn't have his or her own language. So you are saying adopt one that is central. Okay. You have
I'm from Cross River State. I don't understand.
I understand. So it is not. So if there are peculiar cases, you understand the peculiar cases. We are not saying that if you are Hausa, if you are Igbo, if they are speaking Igbo in Anambra, they are speaking Igbo in Abia, they are speaking Igbo in Enugu. This is a central. It doesn't mean that the Igbo being spoken in Ebonyi is the same as the one spoken. But
what about Akwa Ibom?
But there is a central one.
What about Akwa Ibom?
There is a central one.
Because of time, I would want us to look at other issues. Just recently, the Minister of Education, that seems to be the subject of conversation now, Mr. Alausa, Dr. Alausa rather, quoted controversy by his statement. It led to a lot of backlash from academics, policy analysts, and experts, when he said that students pursuing social science courses may face bleak job prospects. He says, and I quote, "We're training you not to be job seekers, but entrepreneurs. A lot of you doing social science courses, with all due respect to you, they are not going to be jobs for you in the future." I mean, if students of social sciences are watching now,
so
what's your message to them?
It's still the same thing that we are discussing. When people don't really understand the sector where they are meant to lead, it's doing very well in terms of pushing leadership. But in terms of understanding the sector, he really doesn't understand the sector. And I'm going to say this, that you have lived abroad for quite a long time may have taken some kind of quite better understanding. I always say it is not about the subjects, it's not about the course that you studied. It's about what you are bringing out of that institution. Universities are not meant to just be, go to class and take this hook, line, and sinker. Yeah. University is supposed to be a kind of, it's a universal system. It's supposed to be an all-round stuff. Somebody can stop.
Practical.
Dele Momodu study Yoruba, for God's sake. And today, nobody can say Dele Momodu is nobody in the society. The former commissioner for information in Lagos, Steve Ayorinde, what did he study at the Obafemi Awolowo University? I think he studied music or something like that. But if you look at him today, this is somebody that you want to actually relate with. So people really do not understand that all these courses that you are studying, we have seen a lot of people who are in the banking sector who never studied banking and finance. They never studied accounting. And probably some of them were even in art. Some of them studied philosophy. So it's about how you want to actually. I've seen somebody who studied philosophy, became a chartered accountant, and eventually ended up working with EFCC. And is a very, very thoroughbred professional. So it's
Mr. Peter Obi studied philosophy.
So it doesn't really matter. So you see a lot of people who do not really understand what you study and what you become. That there are two different things apart. I study language. That does not mean that I must end up in classroom or I must end up in a communication system. It's about what do people really understand. And that is where we usually have problem in Nigeria. The people who actually have the opportunity to govern the system are not at most times the best among us. And that's is a challenge. And what do the people who are around them? We are not saying you should be the best in everything that you do, but we are saying that you should surround yourself with people who actually understand the system, and not just people who want to listen to you and say, yes, sir. People who can be able to tell you that, Honorable Minister, this is not going to work, and these are the reasons why it will not work. For instance, if you are saying people who want to study education, you look at it, it's a policy at the center. You are saying people who want to study education do only need 4 credits. Why people want to go to university need 5 credits. You have already told the people over there that they are of less relevance in the society. So will you allow your child to be seen in that manner? You have seen a situation whereby by your policy, you are reducing the integrity of the people who are taking on certain courses. By your words of mouth, by your outbursts, you are already downgrading some people.
But is there any form of, do you think that the minister has had enough consultations? Because whether we like it or not, Nigeria is blessed with, very, very intelligent
Nigeria's
individuals.
political class doesn't work that way. Nigeria's political class will wake up today.
That's what I was going to. Has it been politicized?
So there is something we call politics of education. So there is politics of education. In politics of education, what people want to achieve is actually a particular target. Somebody who is taking the decision. It's me coming to you, and I know that the boss of this place likes something, and he has said it probably to somebody that we can work. Is it not correct? It now depends on me. Am I able to confront you to say, sir, this thing cannot work because this is of these reasons? If you don't convince them very well, because probably they traveled and they saw something. Let me give an example. Somebody traveled the other time and they say, oh, I saw a poem somewhere, and that thing is working perfectly abroad. And you are bringing it to an environment where they don't even have power, where they don't even understand how to use it, where you have not even thought
like
of it, where they don't even have chairs.
The light train and all that.
It's a good idea, but how are you prioritizing what should be prioritized? So it's a misplaced priority. So when you do
Where are the appointments now?
So we should ask you, and that's we should ask ourselves here. How do we follow up? So
the appointments, the tabs for Osun State students.
So these are kind of the ideas.
Somebody
came and said, oh, what we are going to be doing is that we are doing, okay, for instance, at dev reporting. We had some projects we executed in Oyo State recently. We had about 14 at its report on the basic education system, basic and secondary education. And what we found were very, very, very disheartening. And you look at the report, across major media houses, we had the reporters who were part of this project. And what did they do? They went from one place to the other to look at the situation in Oyo State. And you talk about whether it's about drug, you see how drug use, how use of phones, how fees introduced, about infrastructure, and all these things, how they have affected performance in the state. And you look at enrollment, you look at out of school children, the number keeps growing. The same thing is happening currently in Lagos. You see all these demolitions that you see around, all this coastal road we are building, all these things are currently raising the number of out of school children in Lagos, because a lot of schools were demolished. And a lot of children whose parents do no longer have houses near their schools are already opting out. And we already have something we call Project Zero in Lagos. So if you are talking about Project Zero in Lagos, you are also having, you say you want to bring in students, children back to school. But in another level, you are pushing them out of school. So these are issues that people do not think very deeply. So it takes people who actually understand the system, who are on the street, who are on the road, who relate with the policy makers, and also who relate with those who are receiving the policies, who are the receiving end. We need to understand that it is not just about NUC, MBTE, NCCE, if they even carry Sanu, Nasu, all of them along, it will be better. Go and find out what was the position of NUT in this decision that was taken. What was the position?
I mean, I should ask you. That's why I asked. Was there a consultation?
So, was there consultation with NUT? Was there consultation with ANCOS? These are people who are teaching, who are relating with this.
I mean, just besides those associations, also, what's the data that is driving this type of decisions? Because there are many policies that he has taken and since assuming office, and he's also retracted on those policies as well. So it begs to ask a question: what data is informing such moves that he's making? I think that discussions like this need to continue, whether we like it or not. Joe?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, to continue to discuss. I wish we had enough time.
Yeah, I wish we did.
This, yeah.
Because it's worth acknowledging the fact that Nigeria's educational sector is actually due for a complete reform and overhaul. I was one of those who, just last week I was saying it, I was trying to put out a video and I was saying, when you look at the work given to your children when they come back home, and the type of lessons, the way they're being taught. I mean, there's artificial intelligence. You go to Japan, you go to China, you see their curriculum, how it's evolved. I mean, kudos to the minister. He has mentioned that the curriculum needs to change. There seems to be some infused, improvement in some of the curriculum in terms of what the children or the students should be taught. But we need to go beyond that. I mean, how many classrooms are available? Are these classrooms well catered for? Are the children?
Is there electricity to power those?
There's a whole myriad of problems, and you wonder how we're going to fix it if we're just barely scratching the surface.
There's also issues of edutech. I must say thank you so much,
thank you. Always spot on,
for taking our time to join us this morning. Education is at the forefront when it comes to human capital development. We have to continue and do not stop. Let's go on a short break. When we return, it's going to be the newspaper, the front page reviews. Right here, we've got Nigerian Tribune, we've got The Punch, as well as This Nigeria. Stay with us.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. We are in the final stretch. Let's start off with the Punch newspaper. That's what we're going to take a look at. The front page is indeed blazing, and there's so many stories to look at. The first one, the big one, which definitely I'm sure will make up a bulk of our conversation tomorrow here on Breakfast Central. Federal government, World Bank in talks over second largest $1.25 billion loan. What it simply means is Nigeria's federal government is looking at getting the second largest loan ever, $1.25 billion.
I mean, I'm trying to wrap my...
No, let me break it down. Loan approval expected 6 months before 2027 presidential election. That's one. World Bank flags high political risk ahead of 2027 polls. NESG warns Nigeria's debt outlook remains troubling. Even though the presidency says, no, there's nothing wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with borrowing and so on and so forth. Guys, I think...
Yeah, I mean, my issue is this. I mean, there's nothing wrong in borrowing fundamentally, like the economists will tell you. It's what you use the money for. But if you claim to be hitting record revenue, because customs will make a declaration, or in Q1 2026, we performed better than we did this time last year, and all revenue-generating arms of the government are declaring record profit, plus the windfall from this Iran, Israel, U.S. debacle in the Middle East. Where is all the money going to? So why is there still a need to borrow?
All I'm saying is this: the 1.25 billion that they are borrowing, a portion of that they say is going to human capital development and also infrastructural development. And also they've said that our revenue has increased, as you rightfully said. But the issue here is the pressures it has on Nigerians. The cost of living crisis is not slowing down at any turn. The inflation numbers keep rising. It doesn't matter how you rebase it. The realities that we're seeing on the streets and in our markets, our supermarkets, and the prices of goods, services, and foods is different from what they're reporting in terms of whether it's the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics or the CBN when it comes to inflation and food inflation. We are the ones who are paying out of pocket for this. Nigerians pay out of pocket for electricity. We pay out of pocket for our security, for our medical bills, even though there's health care. And we also are the ones who are bearing the brunt of the revenues that all these agencies, the MDA revenue services are doing, whether it's at the airport. I mean, parking has increased significantly at the airport. Importation levies have increased significantly. We're the ones who are paying for it. And our earnings are not increasing. So tomorrow, I'm certain if this money is approved and we receive it, NUT is going to get back on the streets, Labour is going to get back on the streets, and they will continue to protest for a salary increase. Earnings are not increasing. People are out of jobs. Salaries are going at the same, but the cost of living is increasing. So house rent, I mean, behind the scenes, we're talking about house rent, myself and you.
How house rent has become a nightmare.
Nightmares, it's a nightmare. Also, schools as well as hiking their school fees up. You know, fuel. We're paying over 1,000 naira at pump price. That's about 40% jump from what we're paying to fuel our cars. Nigerians are not making money, but we are paying heavily. The pressures is too much. So I would say tighten your belt and get ready.
You're even going too far. I like the fact that this could also form the crux of our conversation tomorrow, because I can guarantee you that Nigerians are already asking questions as regards these new borrowings. And let me mention this clearly, and I think everyone needs to listen attentively. This is the first time in Nigeria's long history, after 15 years, where Nigeria, under this administration, has failed to actually report the budget implementation. We have not seen the budget implementation report since Q2 of 2024. Usually, every quarter, the Minister of Finance is mandated under the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 to report the implementation budget every quarter, 30 days to the end of the quarter. Since 2024, we have not seen it. So Nigerians are blindsided, as it were, even though there is a Fiscal Responsibility Act that mandates that the presidency, under the office, through the office of the Minister of Finance, publishes the report.
I mean, even the office...
It helps in transparency.
Office of Budget Planning, they have to give a compliance report
these
yearly, and we haven't been seeing that.
Nothing. And And Benga, sorry, just to wrap up quickly, and you wonder when Nigerians ask, and when we have our guests to join in, and we ask them, what's going on? I can mention 3 things that I always highlighted. Number 1, quote me, the governors are getting more money. Every time you ask, Nel Fund. Nel Fund. And the third one, what's that third one again, if I can recall? I can remember the 2, the governors are getting more. Third one, infrastructure. Lagos Calabar Coastal Road. Sokoto, Badagry, and so on and so forth. We understand. But when there's borrowings, when you ask again, what's the accountability on how much is being spent on each of these infrastructure?
Line items,
Till date, there isn't any clear explanation as regards.
And it's stipulated by the law that they do it.
Another very important angle to look at before we wrap up is it's a loan. So you need to pay.
You have to pay back.
And then how do we pay back? Because if a family operates like this, if the head of a family, a father,
would have
operates like this, you will say he's very responsible. Because based on 2025 and early 2026 data, which is going to get worse because we're acquiring more debt, debt servicing consumes a critically high percentage of Nigeria's federal revenue. We're earning often exceeding 70 to over 100% when combined with personal cost. So imagine you spending 70% of your earnings. How much would be left for development on just servicing debt? And then you want to increase that burden.
That's what I'm saying. So we're not making the money. Nigerians' salaries are not going up. We're not, as his opposition would say, we're a consumption country. We're not a production country, I beg your pardon. Nigerians are not earning enough. Now you're trying to widen the tax bracket. Every time we go to the airport, we're paying more than we usually do for parking or whatever taxes. There's also consumption tax. There's value-added tax. If you're in Lagos, it's extra for you. Everyone is paying something, but somewhat.
Even the debt
quality of my life has not.
the debt management office is
it's
it's unsustainable.
Yes. Yeah. You know, so the NESG, Debt Management Office, well-respected economist. I mean, not with all due respect, I'm not an economist, but of course I do understand basic borrowing and paying back. I remember an economist who joined us here, and he made a very clear statement that these monies are being borrowed in dollars.
And
so if you're going to refund them or return them, you have to return them in dollars. And you cannot predict the level at which the dollar would actually rise or fall in terms of inflation. So there's no excuse that, oh, listen, because I borrowed it with 1,200 to $1. Okay, this is it. And Nigerians have also asked, what are the contracts? There's freedom of information. What's the contract?
We need transparency,
look at the
accountability.
NNPCL. Yes, the NNPCL, you've paid over 3.2 billion for the kickstart. What happened to the one that was spent before? Over 2-point-something billion. So there's so much. There's money going back and forth without the understanding of where they're going to. And I think it's right that you read that article on the Punch newspaper.
And not to forget that our last president, may his soul rest in peace, has also seeded off our future with barrels of fuel as payment for loans that was also taken during his administration in the 80s. I mean, there's just so much that one has to cover up. But interestingly enough, we're going to be, taking this discussion come tomorrow. So make sure to join us tomorrow bright and early, 7 o'clock in the morning, all the way down to 10 a.m. here.
That's right. Let's wrap things up as I touch quickly on Nigerian Tribune. We have just 1 minute to go. The front page of Nigerian Tribune, they're just rushing through. Rivers, fate of Fubara's men hangs in the balance. List of 33 cleared aspirants, 65 disqualified, others in circulation. Screening committee secretary disowns list. Report not before National Secretariat. Asked aspirants have right to appeal. APC National Secretary, I will tell they can appeal today. Today is like the day. So let's see if Fubara's men will get some form of respite. ACF orders forensic audit over alleged 1.4 billion naira endowment fund transfers.
Always back here, this conditional, whatever term they use to term it, is still dashing the poor money. And there's still no transparency and accountability. And when you ask for the social register or the register for those who are receiving the money, they always come back and tell you that we are going to violate privacy laws when it comes to issues like this. Look, I don't know. There's just so much going on. Let's see what the faithful of Fubara and his henchmen and his camp will be come tomorrow also debt profile as well. Let's go. We do have to wrap up our discussion here. We have to circle back to Uganda as currently we're being informed that the Rwanda Prime Minister is arriving for the inauguration of Yoweri Museveni. This is where we close the curtain. Many thanks for watching. Join us tomorrow, 7 a.m. Bye for now.
All right.